Exploding German myths. Is what we think we know about German icons really true? Why German myths are ripe for debunking. On trial today, the German Autobahn, Neuschwanstein Castle. But first, did Cologne Cathedral really take hard-working Germans 6 centuries to build? Cologne Cathedral is internationally famous. It was once the tallest building in the world. But how old is it exactly?
It must have been 14th century or something.
It's about 500, 600 years.
It looks really old.
Really old? You think it's really old?
Really old.
And how long did it take to build?
600 years.
Maybe 100 years.
Something like 900 years.
Most people think it's very old and took centuries to build. Time for a fact check. Well, the foundation stone was laid in 1248. The new church was commissioned to house a gift the Archbishop of Cologne got from the Holy Roman Emperor. The holy relics of the Magi, the bones of the 3 wise men who visited Jesus after his birth. Most people are surprised to hear the cathedral was only completed in 1880. Hopefully, art historian Sabina Elisabeth Sikala can shed some light. How could it possibly take 600 years to build?
Well, actually, Cologne Cathedral, right from the start, was a very ambitious project. When they started back in 1248, they managed to finish the most important part, the apse.
They actually got off to quite a good start. The eastern arm was completed in a mere 72 years. The west front was started in the mid-14th century.
They kept on building till the beginning of the 16th century then, when it got a little bit more difficult building Catholic churches. So they stopped roughly around 1520. There was a huge gap when they stopped building.
And you can see where they got to by looking at the lighter stone, lighter medieval stone. Well, so much for German efficiency. The uncompleted South Tower, crowned by a huge medieval crane, was a landmark on Cologne's skyline for more than 3 centuries.
It became like a beacon of hope for the people over here in Cologne, because as long as the crane was sitting on top of this unfinished building, this unfinished tower, everyone was convinced that they could start building right away, right the next day, and that finishing the cathedral wasn't impossible.
Indeed, nothing is impossible. Construction resumed in 1842. A movement to complete this unfinished work of art as a symbol of an emerging German state raised the necessary funds. The cathedral was only finished in 1880. Cologne Cathedral wasn't built in a day, but it wasn't built in 600 years either, and it's maybe not as old as most of these people think. The legendary German Autobahn. Was it a Nazi idea? And is there really no speed limit at all? Join us on a trip on a living legend, the German Autobahn. And the question most people want answered is, can you really drive as fast as you like? More on that in a moment. But first up, let's dispel a few misconceptions about the Autobahn. It's a myth, for example, that Hitler invented it. The idea was born in the Weimar Republic. The first stretch was completed in 1932. It's also a myth that the Nazis solved the unemployment problem with the construction project. Studies show building work on the Autobahn failed to reduce unemployment significantly. The Autobahn network was rapidly expanded in the 1950s. The Autobahn soon became a symbol of freedom. In the 1970s, it was immortalised by electronic music legends Kraftwerk. It's not a myth that on some sections of the Autobahn you can drive as fast as you like. No speed limit. Germany is the only country in Europe that doesn't have a specific speed limit on some, but not all, sections of its motorways. So this is what usually happens, far too much traffic really to drive as fast as you like. But in 2021, Czech billionaire Radim Passer did manage to drive at 417 kilometers per hour on the Autobahn near Wittenberg. His video quickly notched up millions of views. Mr. Passer was driving on the Autobahn very early on a Sunday morning. He had a big team of helpers who had already gone ahead to see that the motorway was almost empty. But high-speed drives, especially if the driver is inexperienced, can end badly. We hope you enjoyed our high-speed trip on the Autobahn, and if you are planning to drive on it as fast as you can, you better be quick because there are moves afoot to bring in a speed limit for safety and ecological reasons. About time too. Schloss Neuschwanstein, the fairy tale castle of Mad King Ludwig. But is it medieval? And did it inspire all those Disney castles?
It's very, very steep. Okay, I think I can just about see something. Nice. Being up this close, it does look like a film set. It's a very new looking medieval castle.
The Gothic architecture and Rapunzel towers could easily fool people into thinking it's older than it is. King Ludwig II of Bavaria actually built the palace in the mid-19th century. On a rocky outcrop he could see from his childhood home, Neuschwanstein Castle.
There is the castle where he grew up with his dad. And at that time, there were the ruins of two medieval castles up on that rock. In actual fact, those ruins were dynamited by Ludwig.
It's so new, the final phase of construction is captured in early black and white photography. King Ludwig was an early adopter of new technologies. Modern elements are also to be found inside. A telephone line with a connection all the way to Munich. An electric bell system to summon the servants. And hot and cold running water.
Spectacular, amazing location. Unbelievable. Really, absolutely out of this world.
Out of this world and into Disney's. The castle is said to have inspired US filmmaker Walt Disney. Disney travelled close to Schloss Neuschwanstein in 1935, and the Disneyland castles bear striking similarities, as do the castles in numerous Disney films.
Neuschwanstein, built by Mad King Ludwig. A medieval castle for medieval knights? Or is it all a bit of a fake?
Ludwig's castle is as much a fantasy as a Disney castle. Many of the rooms inside are incomplete. King Ludwig only got to live here for 172 days. He drowned in mysterious circumstances in 1886. That's it for this myth-busting mission. Do you think there should be a speed limit on the Autobahn? And which German icons should we look at next? Don't forget to like and subscribe.